The aim of the paper is to explore South Africa's post-1994 liberation lexicon, that the entrepreneurship will be the key driver of the economy for creating jobs, especially amongst the young people. My main unit of analysis will be Gauteng province, and it will be around looking at black business people. By black, I use a South African constitutional definition, which implies it's the African population, the colored population, the Indian population, and, well, as of recently, the Chinese population. Chinese people are black people in South Africa by using a constitutional definition. I use Gauteng, as I said, as a unit of analysis I'll explain in the methodological section. But the key thing this paper will explore, and the key argument is this, that over the last 6 years, there has been no national socio-economic national development plan which actually caters for entrepreneurship. That more than anything else, it's just a political lexicon to say that entrepreneurship actually is going to help us. And this lack of planning will be seen in two key areas. Firstly, in how socio-economic development policy has been set up. The two primary ones, I'll be looking at policy linkages, and secondly, the educational policy, which really I'll argue that there's not really been an emphasis of trying to get our education system to cater for the modern day entrepreneur. This is Gauteng. As you know, South Africa. South Africa is a direction, but for us, we call it's a country. There's 6 key provinces, or would be states if you come from other countries. This is just the major one is Johannesburg. And Sedibeng, which will be my unit of analysis. Just a quick background on this paper. When I speak about development, I speak about a specific type of development, socio-economic development. I use Professor Vusi-Gumede's understanding, which, as I'll explain earlier on, is linked to having robust economic policy, industrial policy, and social policy at the heart of what we call development. I also wanted to focus specifically on black people because as most of you know about South Africa's history, we had a policy called apartheid. We had British colonialism, where African people and black people in general were excluded from the means of economic development. And again, with what this has basically meant for the modern African National Congress, which is the ruling party or the governing party in South Africa, is that they have to use the state and government machinery to cater for the growing black unemployed citizenry, the underdeveloped rural areas, and also to cater for a reluctant private sector which is not investing in the South African economy, and also look after neglected townships. What is a township? In South African context, this is what a township looks like. Sorry for the quality of the picture. It's very densely populated. Infrastructure tends to be very badly organized, and on the side there, toilets are everywhere. Juxtapose this with what this is also a township in South Africa, where you find malls. This is the biggest one, Richard Maponya Mall in Soweto, which was built at a cost of between, I think, 51 to 60 million US dollars. But it's in a township, which I've just explained is this. But this is also South Africa. The former president used to say that South Africa is a nation of 2 states. This is a second nation state we're speaking about. At the top is an average Sandton home. Average, as in, yeah, it's not really big. It's what we normally accustomed to. And this is Sandton City. Sandton City is the most prosperous. I think it's the richest square mile in Africa. You find most of South Africa's, or the Africa's millionaires come from Sandton. We know Nigeria has overtaken us as a leading economy, but until they have a Sandton, we are still in charge, so to speak. Sorry for that. Sorry for that. My methodology is quite a simple one. I look at it as a qualitative approach. And I look at socio-economic development policies from government and also from academics. I chose to use a period from 2007 to 2013 for 2 particular reasons. One, I wanted to look at the policies pre the 2008 crash. What was the thinking and what was the logic? And secondly, I also wanted to use the post-2008 period to actually say, did the crash actually stimulate any thinking with regards to entrepreneurship and development? Or have we just basically been sticking to the same trajectory? As I said, Gauteng is being used because it's the financial hub of not only South Africa, but also of the continent. Your standard banks, your FNBs, your MTNs, yes, they're based in Nigeria. Yes, they're making a good profit in Nigeria and across the rest of the continent. But the headquarters are still found in the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, which are still based in Sandton. As I said, theorizing what development means. I wanted to get away from what Bilu and Panzi call the GDP, of looking at things at simply the GDP level. And I wanted to use, these are the key markers I wanted to use. Is the government actually looking at entrepreneurship in the township using policy? What are they saying in policy? Secondly, What is a policy for some small to medium-sized businesses in it? I wanted to use Gumeda's approach to socio-economic development. As I said, speaks about social policies, effectual industrial policy, and entrepreneurship. This approach negates things like human rights, negates issues such as elections. Yes, it's good, they're important, we all know about it. I'm not going to theorize about that. I go to what Lord Robinson from the London School of Economics said. When you look at the original conceptualization of economics, it's about, are people wealthy, are people getting employment? That's the development I speak about. So if I say development, please understand I'm speaking about socio-economic development within a South African context. Entrepreneurship, as I said, it's skewed heavily towards the East Asian states. I look at the People's Republic of China, Singapore, and also South Korea. As Harvey and Chain also say, entrepreneurship has been very state-led in these Asian states. And that's the conceptualization of my development for entrepreneurship in South Africa. I'm asking, what is the state doing? This is very different from United States, where it's very heavily reliant upon individual getting, I think it's getting funding and running it by themselves. I want to use the Asian understanding of how we develop entrepreneurs. As I said, my first mark I'll use is economic development policy linkages. Gauteng has had plus minus 14 policies, just looking at socioeconomic development over the last 5 years. We've shifted from one end to another end. South Africa is split into three spheres of government. There's your national government, which has the prerogative to make national policy. Provincial government also has a prerogative, and also local government, which is supposed to implement. But we've got a topsy-turvy implementation process, where national and provincial make policy, but it's left to local government to implement it. But the problem is that our best and brightest minds are not a local government. They're at the top. So you tend to find that there's bureaucrats who are making policy at the top, but the people at the bottom don't even have the qualifications to implement them, but which is not the issue. But the point is to say policy is being created. Government can say we are looking at socioeconomic development, we are implementing it. But this paper says entrepreneurship, especially at the local government level, it's actually not being done where it's supposed to be felt. As I said, national government has come up with, if you're familiar with South Africa's 4 ministries, it's the Department of Trade and Industry, Economic Development, and it's also the National Development Planning Commission. These are the departments which are entrusted with ensuring that economic development happens in South Africa. And each of these 4 to 3 ministries has also created their own policies. And none of these policies actually mention entrepreneurship in the township. They speak about entrepreneurship at a general level, but they never say, what does it mean for people at the bottom, which is a majority black population. As I said, one of the things I found in doing this research is that there's actually no alignment whatsoever. National government can make what the policies they desire. They can define what they mean by an entrepreneur. Provincial government comes up with their own plan. So at the bottom level, where you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to get into the economy, you're actually stuck between whose policy do I follow? Yes, national has prerogative, but then comes the issue of funding. You go to national, but they'll tell you, no, go back to provincial and find out what provincial is saying. Provincial will tell you, look, it's not really our mandate, by constitutional, we just try to help you out. So you tend to find that there's really we really don't know how to coordinate our entrepreneurship for economic development purposes. As I said, education. Now, this paper is not saying you can teach people to be entrepreneurs. Please understand that. But I'm saying that you can equip people to be entrepreneurs in terms of mathematics, basic accounting, and also inspiring them basically to say, look, don't all graduate and go look for a job in government or it's good to be academics. There's nothing wrong with being academic. But we'd also like you to become entrepreneurs. South Africa's 2 latest policies, especially from the educational point of view, when you read them, there's no mention of economic development. There's no vision for economic development. And most scary, there's also no issue about how are we going to teach young people to be entrepreneurs. There's actually, in a way, you could almost say that we believe entrepreneurs are born in some magical incubation. It happens. We don't have to teach them. We just send you to school, and then somewhere in there you'll decide to be an entrepreneur. That's what the education policies seem to say. Because when you read I think on the key page 13 of the CAPS, it says, as the education department, we just want to make sure that students are able to go through the education policy, understand that you need to pass your matric, and apart from which is your grade 12, because we've got high school and primary school, and that's what they're basically saying. There's nothing about, look, we're looking to equip you to understand that the economy just does not happen in the private sector, but you're also an economic creating agency. This is very different from what Wei and Chang et al. Say, where Singapore 8 years ago said, look, we have exhausted the avenue of saying we're going to come, ask your Microsofts, ask your IBM to set up their shops in Singapore. What we now need to do, we need to actually say, look, we need entrepreneurs to actually drive the knowledge economy. So what we're having in Singapore, you're having state-created entrepreneurs. You're given the right from, obviously, they teach them from a young age that, look, there are 2 or 3 ways of actually becoming an entrepreneur. Okay, there's 2 or 3 ways of actually becoming an entrepreneur. We don't have that. And that's why, yes, it's still early in Singapore's history, but the very fact that they've started with this actually gives them a competitive advantage to say, look, the new industries which are going to come from Singapore are not going to come from United States anymore, but they're going to be homegrown entrepreneurs. As I've said earlier on, we don't have, and we've got many policies, but we have no overarching vision for our economy, especially for entrepreneurs. That's why when a politician goes mostly to young people and says, look, entrepreneurship is the future, it's just to basically calm them down and say, you know what, there's a role for you, don't worry. But if you have to ask the politician, what do you mean in terms of funding? What do you mean by infrastructure? Especially, as I said, township youth, people in the township. They can't actually give you that because there's no national development plan. And the plans which we do have hardly mention townships as centers of the economy. We're still expected to go to town, to Sandton to find work. My conclusion is thus. Not having an overarching plan needs redress. I don't go into the recommendations into this paper, but in the subsequent paper I've written, I actually say we actually need to reduce the amount of ministries we have. China, as large as it is, only has 2 or 3 departments which look after economic development purposes. China is a nation of 2 to 2.3 billion. South Africa is a nation of less than 50. But we've got over 32 to 36 ministries. And all these ministries believe that they can create entrepreneurs and all create their policies. So really, that's one of the things we need to look at. As we say in my language, thank you for your ears, and let us reason together. Thank you.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Our paper is titled Entrepreneurship and Development, the Nigerian Experience. It's a paper written by Professor F.E. Iyoha and my humble self, Dr. Pooe Oviasuyi. Entrepreneurship and development are twin concepts that are supposed to work together to bring about economic, social, political transformation in any country that is desirous of development. Our paper is segmented into 6 segments. We have the introduction, we have the definition of terms, we have an overview of entrepreneurship in Nigeria. We also have programs, entrepreneurial programs in Nigeria. Then we have the challenges and, of course, recommendations. Now, let me start by saying that, by way of introduction, that entrepreneurship is not new in Nigeria. It's been there for so many years. But we can trace the real origin of entrepreneurship to 2 stages, the early stage and the modern stage. The early stage has to do with that started before the pre-colonial era, before the coming of the colonial masters. At that time, entrepreneurs, or those that were involved in entrepreneurial ventures, were involved in producing and exchanging goods that they were not able to use on their own. Okay, the surplus they were exchanged. Of course, we call that the barter trading at that time. Now, that's the early stage. The second stage is the coming of the colonial master, the era we call the modern entrepreneurship stage. With the coming of the colonial masters, with their wares, bringing their commodities to come and sell in this part of the world, that discouraged the growth of the indigenous entrepreneurs. Now, with the coming of the modern entrepreneurs, a company like Royal Niger Company was involved. Later, UAC took over. When UAC took over, the Nigerians were now made middlemen. And becoming middlemen reduced the level of creativity of the indigenous entrepreneurs. So at the end of the day, they were mainly involved in buying and selling, and many of them ended up in white-collar jobs. So to a very large extent, that now reduced the level of entrepreneurial growth in Nigeria up to the current moment because of white-collar jobs. By way of conceptualization, we can simply say that entrepreneur is a person who creates or starts a new project, opportunity, or venture. Development in the words of Dudley simply told us that to understand development, we need to ask basic questions like what has been happening to unemployment, what has been happening to poverty, what has been happening to inequality, and so on. Put differently, Todaro sees development as a process through which a society's economic, political, and socio-cultural institutions are transformed. Iyoha sees development as the ability to provide the basic needs of life, of course, which will include food, jobs, affordable road, and what have you. Successive, we move on to the next program, next subhead, entrepreneurship in Nigeria. Successive governments in Nigeria have been involved in what we call, impressionistic effort at entrepreneurial development. We use the word impressionistic because when government comes out with a top-bottom approach in development, of course, we are not likely to see progress. So virtually all the programs that have been introduced as a way of enhancing the growth of entrepreneurship in Nigeria have been bottom-top arrangements. So to that extent, we are saying that even the programs that they have involved, none of them, to a very large extent, has been able to positively enhance the growth of entrepreneurship in Nigeria. So we just look at some of them. We have the National Directorate of Employment. We have industrial development centers. We have development banks. We have entrepreneurial development programs in educational institutions. We have skill acquisition centers. And recently, the present administration introduced the You-Win program. For example, the You-Win program is for intellectually equipped persons with initiative. We are all aware that such persons are very few in our society. So that's why we are using the word impressionistic. We also have the subsidy reinvestment program that the current administration introduced. Entrepreneurship and development in Nigeria. Has entrepreneurs or entrepreneurship added any value to the economy of this country? We are saying that to a very large extent, the effect of entrepreneurship is not too significantly felt in Nigeria. To justify this, we did a field survey. And we discovered that the total number of small and medium scale enterprises in Nigeria is only 22,918. 22,918 only. We also discovered that the startup capital for those below 10 million is only 17,199 persons. Okay? As if that is not enough, we looked at the total capital of entrepreneurs in Nigeria and discovered that only 16,917,322 is the total amount that is in the small and medium scale enterprises in Nigeria. We looked at the source of capital and discovered that virtually all the money that entrepreneurs start their businesses with are from personal savings, as against the other developed world where government is always there to borrow. The total amount from personal savings is 15 billion and 26,000 only. Loans from bank accounts for only 6 billion out of the 27 billion 645 total amount under entrepreneurship. We also looked at the number of persons employed by small and medium scale enterprises in Nigeria and discovered that only 32,375,406 persons are employed. And that represents 19.4% of the total population of about 170 million persons. That means that over 80% of Nigerians do not have anything to do with entrepreneurship, or they are unemployed, or they are in government settings. Now, government looked at this and said, look, we must find a solution to the problem of the non-growth of entrepreneurship in Nigeria, and therefore decided to set up SMEDAM. They set up SMEDAM in 2003. SMEDAM metamorphosed into SMEDAM in 2004. They were charged with the responsibilities of doing the following. One, generation and dissemination of business information, business awareness creation, business development, and so on. We went to the field again to find out whether SMEDAM is actually carrying out the function for which they were established, and discovered that out of the 22 million 22,918, only 10,436 are aware of the existence of SMEDA. And that's just about 45% of the number of entrepreneurs in Nigeria. 12,482 do not know about the existence of SMEDA. That is supposed to be the catalyst for the growth of entrepreneurship in Nigeria. Out of those who are aware, that's a figure of 10,436, we also discovered that only 996 have benefited from the services of SMEDA. 9,440, representing 90.5%, have not in any way benefited from SMEDA. Of course, the growth is bedeviled with a lot of challenges, both from the environmental factors, internal factors, and from the perspective of SMEDA. So we're going to look at the challenges of entrepreneurship and development in Nigeria. We are looking at this from two dimensions, the external factors and the internal factors. Under the external factors, poor macroeconomic environment is not conducive for the growth of entrepreneurship in Nigeria. We also have the inconsistency of government industrial policies. Of course, we are all aware that there is no policy consistency in Nigeria. We also have lack of infrastructural facilities. You want to set up an entrepreneurial venture, you have to provide your own light, your own road, your own water, your own security, and what have you. These are the issues like this will not affect, will not create room for the growth of entrepreneurship. We also have the problem of excruciating interest rates. To borrow in Nigeria is a very difficult thing. Of course, there is this common saying that whoever goes borrowing in Nigeria goes sorrowing. I took a loan of 1 million naira. When the interest started, I discovered I was going to pay 600,000 for a loan of 1 million. That was excruciating enough. I had to go to personal savings and savings from friends to go and pay up the capital so that I do not go sorrowing. Lack of entrepreneurship education is a major factor again. We have the value system. Value system has changed over the years. We have problem of corruption. We are all aware of this. We have cumulative bad governance. Under the internal factors, we have lack of planning amongst the entrepreneurs themselves. We also have excessive expenditure by the entrepreneurs. Where they are fortunate to have a loan from the bank, they end up spending the money on luxurious items instead of growing the business. We also have poor management practices, poor customer services. Myself and my friends, we went into a restaurant to eat. When we got there, we met two women, and we greeted them. It took them about 20 minutes for them to answer us. When they finally answered us, we told them we needed food. It took them another 20 to 35 minutes to bring the food. And when we finally saw the food and we discovered that the place they used wasn't too clean enough, we complained. One of them just looked at us and said, if you don't want chop, go. Yeah? If you don't want to eat, go. We don't need, in fact, if you like, don't come again. My husband will take care of me. I'm not bothered. This is a factor of bad attitude to entrepreneurship. We also have insufficient marketing strategy, lack of business knowledge. Entrepreneurs in Nigeria are copycats. If Mr. A is doing XY product, everybody wants to rush into that product. So it doesn't create room for the growth of entrepreneurship. Culture is also a major problem. Of course, we have recommendation. We are saying that electricity is a major problem for the growth of entrepreneurship in Nigeria. 60% of the major problem in Nigeria is caused by electricity. If we're able to solve the problem of electricity, of course, entrepreneurship will grow. Again, the macroeconomic environment, we have to work on it. Security, which is one of the banes of development in Nigeria and by extension entrepreneurship, should be worked on. Government should create room for financing of entrepreneurial ventures. Technical education that is supposed to be the foundation for the growth of entrepreneurship and technological growth of every country has been abandoned. So there's nothing like technical education anymore in Nigeria. We are saying that that is not good enough. It cannot help in the growth of entrepreneurship. Finally, we are saying, that entrepreneurship contributes only 10% to the gross domestic product of Nigeria, as against the US, 67%, countries in Asia, 75%. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm here to present a paper on the impact of foreign aid on Nigeria's socio-economic development and assessment of the democratic era as in post-1999. So I will start with this. There are three schools of thought on the effectiveness of aid. The first one is that aid has a positive relationship with economic growth and development. Secondly, aid has no effect on economic growth and might be detrimental to economic growth itself. And the third one here is that aid has a conditional relationship with economic growth, accelerating growth under certain conditions. And people have argued that undemocratic governance, corruption, weak internal structure of recipient countries, poor aid recipient identification and coordination were the major problems of the effectiveness of aid before now. So from here, the major concern of this work is to look at, because before 1999, Nigeria was basically under military rule, and then it was concluded that aid was not effective, that aid was dead and failed. So this paper now intends to look at Nigeria under democratic rule, because under democratic rule, Nigeria is now experiencing a kind of a system of government where they can fight corruption, and there is good governance and a well-structured internal system. So with this, I divided this paper into 6 parts. The first part is trying to conceptualize what foreign aid is, and then the second part also look at foreign aid and democracy in Africa, looking at the relationship between foreign aid and democracy. And the other part looking at the Nigerian experience before 1999. And later I now look at the impact of foreign aid on socio-economic development in democratic era. I divided it into 2 parts, looking at social development and the impact on social development, and later on economic development, and terminate with the conclusion. Foreign aid is, in general terms, in the transfer of resources from one country to another country, as in transfer of resources from a richer nation to a poor nation. Though there are transfer of resources from richer nations to richer nations too, but the most common one, and the one that we are dealing with here, is that from a richer nation to a poor nation, which is that of Nigeria. And most of the resources include financial grants, loans, physical goods, physical goods, skills and technical know-how, trade agreements, and among other things like debt relief. So from here, we look at the relationship between foreign aid and democracy in Africa. Like Tide pointed, the relationship between foreign aid and democracy in sub-Saharan Africa appears to be highly conditioned by the distinction between the Cold War and the post-Cold War era. Before the new millennium, foreign aid to sub-Saharan Africa was understood to be ineffective, and as it failed to reflect and spur economic and political development in Africa. In a bid to address to address the problem of aid ineffectiveness, Western donors gathered at Rome in 2003 and also in Paris 2005. At Paris, they concluded that democracies have to be the beneficiaries of foreign aid. In Stevenson's assessment of the impact of democracy and civil political parties on aid effectiveness, it discovered that aid has a positive relationship with growth in countries with institutional checks and then governmental powers. That means a country with real democratic principle. And here it concluded that the impact of foreign aid is conditional on the level of political liberty, of political and civil liberties in that country. So looking at the Nigerian experience, in fact, if you look at, I will use the World Bank assessment in terms of that of Nigeria. In fact, a World Bank country assistance evaluation of Nigeria in pre-1999 to post-1999 era concluded that until 1999, Nigeria had been one of the most disappointing development stories of modern era, a country whose experience served as a cautionary tale of the risk of natural resources, income, and environment on weak governance. So from here, we will now look at the issue of another thing about Nigeria is that in the post 1999 era, that means after the incident of democracy in Nigeria, there are some changes in the aid industry. Firstly, we have a situation where we have the donor institutions and donor countries. They have kind of re-strategized the way that they give foreign aids to their beneficiaries. Now aid itself bypasses the government, and it goes straight to the ministries, the department, and agencies that uses it. And also we have a kind of increase in number of private voluntary aids from abroad. And from there, we will now look at the impact of foreign aid on socio-economic development in democratic era. So in this part, I divided this work into two parts, looking at the social development separately and looking at the impact on economic development. To start with, foreign aid in Nigeria has influenced the explosion of NGOs. What I'm talking about here is that if you look at Nigeria carefully before 1999, we don't have much of NGOs, but because of democracy and then and because of increase in foreign private aid, we have this explosion of NGOs, and these NGOs mainly deals with HIV/AIDS, malaria, women and child rights, human rights, and then humanity. Another thing that we can look at here is that because unemployment is like a social problem in Nigeria, to me, I see it as a social problem, unemployment, and then what I call it joblessness. It is a rift in society. So foreign aid itself has somehow ameliorated in its own capacity. What I mean by in its own capacity is that because foreign aid has sport, and then now we have NGOs. We have NGOs in Nigeria, and these NGOs that we have in Nigeria, they have accumulated people, youths that are working with them as staffs and then trainers. Also, we have organizations like USAID, DFI, the IMF, World Bank. All of them, they also employ Nigerians. So some way, somehow, it has ameliorated unemployment. And also, foreign aid too is also channeled into skill acquisition too. So that tells you that it has somehow trying to address the problem of unemployment and entrepreneurship too. Not far from the provision of job is also women emancipation and then empowerment. Donor agencies and development partners help in promoting the cause of women and children in Nigeria. Private international donors and foreign aid agencies provide funds, logistics support, and manpower to women emancipation in Nigeria. For example, you can look at the United Kingdom, the United Kingdom DFID in Nigeria. They invest heavily in women capacity development between 2011 and then 2015. And now by 2015, they are kind of expecting a kind of a greater result. Also, you can still look at LAPO too. LAPO, is a kind of very, very popular loan scheme in Nigeria, which fully means Lift Above Poverty Organization. This Lift Above Poverty Organization is being financed by Evangelistica Episcopal Church Development Service, Germany, and Grameen Bank, and then USAID. And this LAPO itself is focused on empowering poor women, and they give loans to them without collaterals. So also, Foreign aid has also helped in conflict management and prevention and social stability. In Nigeria, apart from the fact that the United States has helped in training of security agencies in dealing with security challenges, the United States Agency for International Development also organizes programs to promote religious tolerance among Nigerians and then social stability. Like I now use these two examples, these two schemes. There is one they call Tolerance Project and the other one Change. The Tolerance Project is training of leaders for religious and national coexistence, while the one that is called Change is conflict halt and negation of growing extremism. The both programs are to encourage social stability and to discourage conflict in the society. Another social impact of foreign aid in post-1999 Nigeria is political socialization. Development partners in Nigeria, they help in educating Nigerians electorate on electioneering process and electoral violence. These bodies are majorly European Union, USAID, and some other bodies like that. The European Union and DFID, they are the major organizations that are prominent in this regard, and they give direct financial and logistic support to national orientation agency in terms of educating the people on what to do and not to do in the political sphere. And also, they also give support to the Independent National Electoral Commission in discharging their own duties too. For the fact that aid has contributed to social development in Nigeria does not mean that it has no negative impact on social life in the country. Some humanitarian aid in post-1999 Nigeria has also resulted into social disasters. For instance, I consider the issue of pizza in northern Nigeria during the meningitis crisis. PIFSA drug support for meningitis victims in Akanu became a disastrous aid, as the drug that they give to people is called Trovan. That drug was expected. The drug was expected to cure meningitis, but the drug resulted into brain damages and some other deficiencies. And this itself has kind of built some kind of failed trust in the intention of foreign aid in Nigeria. From there, I will now look at another major negative impact of foreign aid in Nigeria. The major another one is that foreign aid has sustained and then contributed to corruption in Nigeria. Most of the NGOs that we have in Nigeria, they are insincere. Most of them are kind of floated just to get personal gains, and they are being funded by these foreign resources. So from there, I now look at the impact on economic development. Yeah, I will. I now look at the impact on economic development. Okay. So I look at debt relief as a foreign aid. Debt relief has really helped Nigeria to have sufficient funds to invest in infrastructural development in Nigeria. Also, I now look at I look at trade agreements too, which has increased trade in Nigeria. Okay, thank you.
Their topic is Costuming the Carnival Calabar, an index for gender empowerment and entrepreneurial development. I will just read the abstracts so that you make your contributions, since it's not my paper. The abstract is gender marginalization, and other gender-sensitive issues have become a global issue research has shown that lesser number of women go to school, and many women are socially, politically, and maritally marginalized, such that they either do not contribute to development, if at all they do. Their contributions are very minimal. This largely is due to the fact that women are not educationally or economically empowered, and so cannot make the meaningful contributions they are expected to. This paper takes a look at the possible reasons that women are not empowered as they ought to be, and considers skills acquisition and artistic participation of women in Calabar Carnival costumes production as a means towards economic independence for the women of Cross River State. In Nigeria, as in other parts of African continent, women have greatly been marginalized, especially in education, not minding that education, as confirmed by Wikipedia 2011, bestows on women a disposition for a lifelong acquisition of knowledge, values, attitudes, competence, and skills, developing their mental, moral, and physical powers. Enrollment in schools show that more boys participate in education than girls. This is partly because of culture that puts the women under the provision of the man. It is largely believed that education of female children benefits her family. Nothing as the place of the woman is her husband's house. In doing so, the parents ignorantly deprive their girls of knowledge and skills to advance their status, knowledge of interaction and self-improvement. The multiplier effect of this attitude is seen today in our society, with a large number of women not being able to contribute to development in their homes and communities. Skills acquisition and artistic participation of women in Calabar Carnival costumes production. Skill generally put is the ability to do something well. Skills apply in many areas. For the context of this paper, skills shall be viewed as the development of practical knowledge and developing latent talent in an individual. Skill can be deduced as expertise gained from training or experience to be able to carry out a specified activity, which in the context of this paper shall be artistic design of carnival costumes and accessories. A lot of women in Cross River State have participated in design and production of carnival costumes since the advent of Carnival Calabar in 2005. Before this time, there was neither awareness nor need to learn carnival art skills. However, at the advent of the Carnival Calabar, adjudged to the largest street party in Africa, the need for designing, sewing, and handcrafting of carnival costumes and accessories arose. A lot of women availed themselves of this opportunity to learn new skills and were trained in aspects of carnival costumes, including cutting, sewing, carnival collars and belts, sewing carnival collars and belts, headgears, other carnival accessories, and methods of artistically ensembling the costumes. The skills in artistic design was taught to the students, that is women, following the design process of inspiration, concept definition, creativity, analysis, production, clarification. You can see the work being done there. This thorough design process that the women were taken through made them very proficient in carnival costumes production. Once the skill was acquired, many women now equipped became skilled workers of carnival costumes and accessories. Some of these women before now were idle, without skill of any type, and had to wait to be provided for by their husbands and relatives. According to oral interview by some women, some of them could stay without food for days because they were not provided for, and their children had to drop out of school for inability to pay school fees, while some said they could now change clothes and be fashionable because they now are equipped with skills with which they can fend for themselves and their families. Yet others testify that their marriages, which was at the brink of collapse, have now been restored because they are now empowered. They earn money and can contribute financially to the upkeep of their families. Through this, they also earn the respect of their husbands, and the incessant quarrels, which were often the order of the day, have subsided. You can see the women there in the workshop. the women doing it. That's the carnival. This thorough design process that the women were taken through made them very, I've even done that. Is it done? Is it done? That's where I ended. That's where I ended.
Thank you. The paper looks at gender dynamic and entrepreneurial development in southeastern Nigeria. The 5 southeastern zones are Abia, Anambra, Ebonyi, Enugu, and Imo. The paper is broken into 5 sections. Introduction. Nigeria population is about 120 million people. Female constrained 45% out of 7% unemployment population. Women entrepreneurs in developed and developing countries of the world are agents of economy, empowerment, and job creators. Generally, women are strong, creative, resourceful, intelligent, and innovative, and hardworking. These qualities has made women to be successful. My concern is more on the constraint of women. The constraints. The major challenge faced Nigerian women, just like their counterparts in other parts of Africa, have multiple roles traditionally. An African woman navigates from her roles as mother, wife, breadwinner, and producer. This constraint from them activates that are outside the home, state and risk. This had adverse effect on them, as low-risk activities are often those which produce inadequate incomes. They produce interaction and less physical movement of many of the women who operate in this category, produce a resultant effect of restraining them from access to information and search for information on other economic prospects. Generally, however, the self-employed earn less than their counterparts in paid employment. Small business administration, although many people chose self-employment because it seems to offer them greater freedom and flexibility. Nigerian women who engage in micro and small enterprise started their business to overcome gender discrimination and economic disadvantages, including the challenges of poverty and its consequences. Hence, this group of entrepreneurs find it more suitable to engage in the trade and service sectors and have low presentation in the small-scale management sector, a situation that is attributed to factors such as low level of education, lack of opportunities for training, as well as meager financial and human capital. Some of the driving forces behind them starting a business include household sustenance needs like food, clothing, education for children, unemployment, family pressures on girls to earn their own living, among others. Invariably, these women are naturally entrepreneurial by their active handling of risk and uncertainties in order to meet the challenges imposed on them by unequal access to social and economic value goods. However, in the long run, the equal participation of men and women in these matters depend on strategic measures. That is, policy and institutional changes need to tackle the root cause of gender inequalities and remove the constraint to women involvement in economic development. It is pertinent to know that as countries become more democratic, gender inequalities seem to diminish, thereby providing a more productive environment for both male and female. Foster, 1996. Women productive activities, particularly in industry, empower them economically and enable them to contribute more to overall development. Whether they are involved in small or medium-scale production activities or in informal or formal sectors, women entrepreneurial activities are not only a means of economic survival, but also have positive social repercussions for the women themselves and their social environment. United Nations Industrial Development Organization, 2001. In many countries, women do not enjoy the same opportunity as men. In many transitional economic progress has been achieved in opening doors to education and health protection for women, but political and economic opportunities for female entrepreneurs have remained limited. Concerted efforts are needed to enable female entrepreneurs to make better economic choice and to transform their business into competitive enterprise, generating income and employment through improved production. Entrepreneurship represents an appropriate opportunity for women all over the world, as entrepreneurship responds flexibility to entry, change, and innovation. Although many of the constraints are shared by both female and male entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs face additional obstacles. This is due to deeply rooted discriminatory socio-economic, socio-cultural values and traditions embedded particularly in the policy and legal environment and in the institutional support mechanism. In many instances, women are unable to benefit from services and must struggle to overcome or circumvent discrimination in business circles. UNIDO 2001. Many questions can be raised about the position of women in business in any country. Does the current economic and social environment give women greater opportunities to enhance their economic and social status? What proportion of new business is owned by women, and how does the situation compare with other countries? Are women involved in large businesses or only in small and medium enterprise? Are women in managerial positions in private businesses? Are women as motivated as men to achieve managerial positions? Do men and women manage business differently? Do men and women have different personal management styles? What are the career options? Are women subject to discrimination and harassment in the workplace? Does the glass ceiling exist? Are the issues of concern for businesswomen similar to those of businesswomen elsewhere, or are their experiences determined more by local and socio-economic conditions or traditional cultural norms? Entrepreneurship as a model for factors of development. Societies that have studied and applied entrepreneurial economy, such as Japan, Australia, and Southeastern Asian countries, are witnessing unprecedented economic growth. These countries have moved from traditional economy characterized by paternalism or domestic management to a dynamic, innovative, future-oriented, and entrepreneurial management. Entrepreneurship, as we know, constitutes a discipline, a set of knowledge with principles, practices, and methods. Nigeria can learn the theories of entrepreneurship and practice them. The important principles that can make the difference in implementation include the following: the purposeful and systematic entrepreneurial activity for women and the men can begin with the analysis of the opportunities, which need a plan and a vision and a goal. It requires a mastery of the product, the service of an environment, but to achieve this principle, one has to work hard to achieve knowledge, to face the risk and uncertainty, and to search for change and opportunities. Innovative can occur by exploring the following sources: unexpected sources, failure or event occurring in the environment, new needs, change in the structure of the industry or the market, change in the demography, in perception or in values, availability of new knowledge, technology. Entrepreneurship can be applied in an existing business, in public institutions, or in a new venture. In an existing business, one talks about entrepreneurial management. This means applying entrepreneurial principles and practice into management. Entrepreneurial management requires policies, practices, and strategies. How the theory, concepts, practices, and principles of innovation and entrepreneurship can be applied by men and women to enhance the business sector that determines the growth of the economy. Entrepreneurship for Nigerian women and politics of inclusion. Entrepreneurship is the creation and the production of new resources. A new venture starts with an idea. The subject of entrepreneurship stems primarily from the discovery by economic analysts that small firms contribute considerably to economic growth and vitality. As the women population grows in Nigeria, the need becomes more urgent than ever to stimulate the to stimulate the resources that women represent, considering the needs and pressures on them as mothers and producers. Entrepreneurship creates jobs, leads to new knowledge and new competence. Entrepreneurship can be applied in private sector as well as in public institutions, in existing businesses, in new ventures alike. It includes every day in the business, from the top to the bottom. Through entrepreneurship, women and men create wealth and satisfy needs. A country needs innovation and entrepreneurship to expand the business, its productivity, and its competitiveness. Innovation is an integral part of entrepreneurship. It deals with the introduction of new ways of doing things or new ideas, changing the values and the use of resources in order to better satisfy consumers. Although innovation and creativity have no gender, African women are by nature innovators. They can easily create something from nothing in attempt to assist in the family needs. And so by extension, Nigerian women are naturally entrepreneurs and presently they dominate the informal sector business in the country. One major characteristic of entrepreneurship is the fact that it shifts resources from area of low productivity to a higher productivity yield. In giving Nigerian women, in conclusion, by all this, it must be emphasized that there is a need to lighten the ordeal surrounding women's access to credit and financing of their enterprises. This element, business startup, will definitely improve chances of becoming successful entrepreneurs. In particular, government banks and other financial intermediaries must embark on specific research on the characteristics, financial needs, and performance of women-owned businesses, and for equitable treatment of women by financial institutions and government credit agencies. Thank you.
What goes on from the federal level to the provincial level and then to the local government level. For Iyoha, they saw entrepreneurship and development as twin concepts, and that entrepreneurship is nothing new in Nigeria because it has always existed, and that it was the coming of colonialism that gave rise to issue of middlemen, and gradually entrepreneurship started dwindling. They have recommended that solving the problem of electricity, introduction of technical education, these are things that will enhance entrepreneurial development in Nigeria. Oluwasegun was talking about aid, foreign aid in particular, and according to him, it has a relationship with development in states with institutional discipline, unlike it is in Nigeria. He said aid has led to explosion of NGOs. Foreign aid has also ameliorated unemployment. It has created women empowerment and emancipation. It's been used to educate people on election and electioneering processes. However, he said if availability of foreign aid has also led to insincere NGOs, whatever that means. And Ginigeme spoke about gender issues being global issues, skills as development of practical knowledge. Women now provide for their family. Women have been able to stabilize their marriages through entrepreneurial skill acquisition. They have been able to earn respect from society and from their husbands. While Grace took us through the gender dynamics involved in entrepreneurship, she highlighted that there are constraints for women carrying out their roles. She reiterated the fact that self-employed persons earn less than salaried persons, family pressure on girls, making them develop into entrepreneurs. And then she spoke about limited opportunities for women, and that Nigerian women are exceptionally creative and good, as they can create something from nothing. This is a general overview of what they have all presented. We'll take a few questions, 5 at a go, and then we give them. I am reserving my own comments because there's this aspect of gender that when people discuss gender and they tend to think when you're talking about gender, the gender issues, you're just talking about women issues, women problems. This is something that I'm always not comfortable with because I'm a gender equity person by right. And as such, but not to preempt what will come from the audience, I would like to keep my opinion until after everybody has spoken. So 5 questions, can we go? Yeah, 1, 2, 3. I have 3 hands. Any more? 4, 5. So I take
the chairperson. Let me congratulate all of them. It's done well. Quickly, Patrick, I think there's a need for him to look at the historical background of the topic you are looking at. You did mention the issue of trade by barter. Then you went to this issue of colonial masters coming to supply goods. I think there's a need to look at legitimate trade, which led to the encouragement given to African people to plant cocoa and all other materials, which were eventually taken to Europe to manufacture goods. So please look at that. The second person, Iyoha. It's the same person. Okay. Shegun. Democratic government. I was able to get what you said. Before 1999, I said which period? Because when you talk of 1999, in history, pre-colonial period, it's part of a pre-colonial era. By the time we got independent, the British government took over in 1900. 1960 is still part of pre. So we must know the exact time you are talking about in history. Prioritization is very important. The third person, Avia, and he also made mention of issue of corruption in the NGOs. I think it's a very vital point, but it's a general problem in Nigeria, which we must look at. Is found, okay, his paper is on Nigeria. So it's an issue we must address. Then the lady that presented on Calabar. Well, if you look at the history of Calabar, especially the role of Mary Slessor, I will not believe that as of 20th century, we are still talking of women being marginalized. I think the issue of education, especially the missionaries that were there as of the time Mary Slessor introduced education and trying to put an end to killing of twins, people should have seized that advantage and educate their women. And I know the missionaries also got there very early. So I think there's a need to emphasize the issue of education. This is the issue that I think it can erase some of this problem. Then looking at Grace, well, your focus is on Southeastern Nigeria. You started with Southeastern Nigeria, you ended up talking about African women. And I think it's not the same all over. And I'm a Yoruba man. I know where you have Igbo people in Yoruba land. Most of their wives, they are in the same place with the man, working with the man, keep the woman in the shop. So I think there's a need, maybe there's a reason for that. You hardly see Igbo woman having her own shop. You'll be Oga, my Oga, my Oga. When you say who's the Oga, it's the husband. It's always there, taking care of the man there. Thank you.
Of course, even when we are highly educated, we are blind to these colors and shapes. And those colors, shapes, communicate a lot. So I would have loved to ask them whether it's the same, whether it gives the same meaning. Because I am a lecturer of mass communication. And I specialize in graphics of communication. Okay. I would have loved to know them more, and I appreciate them. Please tell them that I really appreciate their work. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 3.
We see that there are some problems in getting help for those people who are in rural places. For instance, they will ask them to bring their C of O, certificate of occupancy, before they can help, and it's a problem. So the issue of foreign aids, my mom, NGO, and you talk about what do I call humiliations given to some people. by locking them in the toilet if they were unable to pay the money and all that of kind of humiliations. What can we do on that? Or we easily reject the NGO issue and go the way we are living.
That has already been taken care of even before Carnival came into Nigeria through Calabar. Yeah, so we won't be talking about that in this case. Now, which women are you referring to? Is it the rural women? Is it the younger women when you're talking about being empowered by this area? Now, secondly, what percentage of women, looking at the Carnival Calabar, is it that a very big market? How many bands do you have? So what percentage of women are actually empowered by this costuming? What percentage? Is it enough to say there's development, that's brought development and all that? Okay.
I was surprised during discussions that I didn't hear much about the distinction between formal sector entrepreneurship and informal sector entrepreneurship. And as you know, in sub-Saharan Africa, it's the employment rate for informal sector is about 70%, whereas in OECD countries it's about 20%. So for those discussants that have particular policy implications through their work, so perhaps the discussants from South Africa and Benin, if you can possibly touch on, do you believe that government programs supporting entrepreneurship should be focused on the formal taxable sectors or the informal sectors? Thank you.
First question is, who are the people who are supposed to benefit from entrepreneurship? Is it the rural people or the city people? It's very clear. Entrepreneurship is for everybody. In fact, by 2004, when Smedan was introduced, there was no distinction or there was no attempt to distinguish between the rural people and the urban people. Okay? Even the issue of collateral that he mentioned has been taken care of by Smedan. So you don't need to have collateral to think of going to the bank to get loan. The commercial banks are empowered by the central banks to give out the loan. But like I said, the only challenge there is that the interest in getting the loan is always very, very high. So people are scared of going there because if you go to take a loan and you are going into business and you are not able to break even, you will go sorrowing. So to that extent, people avoid it. Then the half question, we're talking about the informal and the informal. That's why I call that one half question. Yeah, we're talking about the formal and informal. I think in Nigeria, the two of them are taken together. Well, it started from the informal sector before government now took notice of it and came up with Smedan and later Smedan that is taking care of both. So we are aware of both of them. Thank you very much. Okay.
My paper. No, if you look at the topic here. Okay, I was trying to look at the situation in pre-1999 and then the post-1999. I tried to look at the connection. Okay, military. Okay, I'm sorry. The military era after independence. That's what I'm trying to look at, and then the post-1999. So that was what I'm sorry for that. And on the issue of LAPU, I was unable to conclude because I was unable to deal with the time. So the issue of LAPU, I concluded that the foreign aid itself is a kind of a misblessing. So it is not.
Thank you, sir. Who else?
I think just to answer gentleman's question about the informal and formal. South Africa's, we actually have a bit of a dilemma in South Africa. As I said, having that two nation means, on one hand, we can compete in the knowledge economy. A lot of South African big companies have got their own research and development, which actually puts us on the same footing. I'd say not quite with the USA and the UK, but we can compete with them. And this is where most of our investment is actually geared towards. We understand that, look, in as much as we want the informal sector to grow, and there's a huge lobby for it, what we want is black industrialists. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for that same, I don't want to say industrialization where we're killing the environment in the same way as our friends in the PRC have done, but we're looking for it to actually create mass unemployment. Because most of our people don't actually, in as much as you deal with informal, it's only a substitute for you to get a bigger contract, for you to get a bigger tender. So we're actually stuck. We haven't really given much. There are policies in place, but everything's about saying, look, you must graduate from the informal to go to the formal. So maybe we're not as advanced as Nigeria in terms of handling the informal, because for us, we just want to get you from informal to the formal as quickly as possible.
I want to comment on them, although it's not my paper. Yeah, but I want to comment on some of the questions. I'm going to take whatever comments have been made to the authors or the researchers. But I want to talk about the communication aspect of the designs, the motifs and the colors. I'm an artist, so I know what. Yeah. So for that, every theme, every carnival, every year's carnival has a theme. So the costumes are designed to project or communicate the theme of that year's carnival. So every design, every motif, every color communicates, speaks as a topic to communicate the topic of the year. So it's an annual thing. Then the next question was on women wear and all that. Actually, the authors or the researchers create those costumes. So during that time, women are employed, large number of women. So what she's trying to do is maybe to expand and introduce it more. The women are actually being employed during this time, and they are useful. Because of that, there's an extension of what they do. Now it has become even more regular. They deal with costumes. You see women producing costumes now, which has even expanded to even fashion. So they produce bags, shoes, and all that. So it is really there. It is really there. Yeah.
Can we give another round of applause to every participant?